Claire Ellington and I were supposed to be in-game. Childhood sweethearts, the whole 9 yards. But she was an Ellington, a princess of her dynasty, and I was just a Kane, the illegitimate son, the family's dirty little secret. The Kanes and the Ellingtons were both titans of industry, but our union was doomed from the start. A prince and a pauper, relatively speaking. To be worthy of her, to give her the wedding that would be the talk of the season, I set my sights on the one thing I never dared to dream of before, becoming the heir to the Kane empire. We made a pact. 5 years. We would meet again at the top. But when I finally returned, victorious and wearing the crown I'd fought for, I found someone else by her side. A junior assistant who was her constant shadow. 5 years to the day, I stepped back onto American soil, armed with the title of Kane heir and the blessing of the Ellington patriarchs for our engagement. The moment I cleared customs, a video popped up on my phone. The sender was Sabrina Vance, Claire's stepsister. Like Claire, she was part of my childhood, but she was also my sworn enemy. It was like we were fated. From the first glance, we knew exactly who the other was. Except instead of love at first sight, it was hate. From that day on, it was war. She'd fish my deliberately lost homework out of the trash and return it to me. I'd hide her favorite hair clip. She'd rat me out to a teacher for skipping class. I'd tie her pigtails to her chair. We just couldn't stand the sight of each other. I figured this was just her latest attempt to mess with me. But when I opened the video, I saw Claire, my fiancée of so many years, standing with a strange man, surrounded by a cheering circle of her colleagues. Amid the catcalls and whoops, they slid rings onto each other's fingers. Then they embraced, a tight, possessive hug. Claire's face was buried in the man's chest, her expression hidden. His chin rested on her head, a blissful smile on his face. And the rings. I had designed them myself. They weren't made of precious metal or studded with diamonds, but they held a secret. A clever mechanism allowed them to join together with a simple twist, becoming one. 5 years ago, I gave one half to Claire as a promise. She'd wept, saying she would wait for my return to put the other half on my finger herself. Now, she was sliding that ring, our ring, onto another man's hand. A sharp pain twisted in my gut. I fired back a single, massive question mark to Sabrina. She replied instantly. Don't be mad. Claire and her little assistant are just playing around for show. You're the one she loves. Her tone was pure poison, but she'd given me what I needed, the man's identity. If I wasn't mistaken, I even knew his name. Claire had mentioned him 3 years ago. Her alma mater had invited her back as a distinguished alumna to help with a career fair. She'd taken her team and interviewed a batch of interns. One of them was a kid named Leo Foster. The only reason I remember the name was because Claire was constantly complaining about how clumsy he was, how he needed to be taught everything. I hadn't thought anything of it. It was typical office chatter. But then, slowly, Leo Foster's name started appearing more and more in our texts. Before I knew it, Claire had promoted him, vaulting him over a dozen more experienced employees to become her personal assistant. I made my disapproval clear. A fresh college grad with zero track record, a direct assistant to the president of a major industry player? It was blatant favoritism. Professionally, it was unfair to the other employees who'd been busting their asses for years. Personally, it crossed a line. It felt unfair to me. I tried to joke about it. He's either a once-in-a-generation genius, or his boss has a thing for him. Claire had exploded. She accused me of having a filthy mind, of seeing dirt everywhere because I was dirty inside. She gave me the silent treatment for days. It ended, as it always did, with me apologizing first. Looking back, it wasn't my mind that was dirty. It was hers. No, maybe it wasn't just her mind. The thought sent my pulse, which had just started steady, racing again. I took a deep breath and texted Sabrina. Address. I owe you one. Her reply was just as blunt. The Gilded Cage, VIP Lounge 208. I sent a quick thanks, then told the driver who'd met me at the airport to have my luggage sent home. I took the keys and drove myself. When I reached Lounge 208, I pushed the door open just a crack. The sound of raucous cheering spilled out. All right, Claire, you lost the last round and had to swap rings. This round, you have to link arms and drink champagne. If she loses the next one, does that mean she has to spend the wedding night with Leo? My hand tightened on the doorknob. I pushed the door open and walked in. The room fell silent. Every eye snapped to me. Claire was in the middle of it all, holding a glass of champagne, her arm linked with a young man's. The moment she saw me, a flicker of panic crossed her face. She instinctively pushed him away. Ethan, when did you get back? I smiled, a cold, empty thing. Just landed. Am I interrupting something? The shock on her face melted into a forced, brilliant smile. She scurried around the table and threw herself into my arms. Ethan, I'm so sorry. We just closed a huge deal, and everyone's had a little too much to drink. She wrapped her arms around my waist and looked up at me, her eyes brimming with a love that looked almost real. The frozen employees finally snapped out of it, their faces plastered with strained smiles. Yeah, Mr. Kane, this must be the fiancé you're always talking about. You two make such a power couple. We were just messing around, sir. Don't get the wrong idea. Right, it was just a game. It doesn't mean anything. My gaze drifted from her face to the man, or boy, really, standing by the table. He was clean-cut, well-dressed, with a fresh-faced look that was instantly likable. He met my eyes and gave me a small, polite nod. Mr. Kane, good to see you. But I saw the challenge glinting in his smile. Claire felt my attention shift to Leo Foster, and her arms tightened around my waist. Ethan, please don't overthink it. It was just a stupid game that got out of hand. We were just having fun. Actually, she continued, a little too quickly, we have Leo to thank for closing the Macrotech deal. He worked overtime for almost a month straight, and his proposal was brilliant. During the final negotiations, he was the one who came up with solutions to all their curveball questions on the fly. She was rambling, her eyes unconsciously flitting toward Leo, her admiration palpable. It was only for a second before her focus snapped back to me, but the glow had been unmistakable. She seemed to realize how inappropriate it sounded and quickly tried to backtrack. I was just so thrilled, I let them get a little crazy. You're not mad, are you? I scanned the room, a smirk playing on my lips. Of course not. Since everyone's in such a good mood, you won't mind if I join the party, right? The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The loudest cheerleaders from a moment ago were now silent as statues. One quick-thinking employee jumped up to smooth things over. Not at all, Mr. Kane. Of course not. Please, have a seat right here. Claire led me to the sofa. By the way, Ethan, she asked, a puzzled look on her face, how did you know we were here? I hesitated, trying to figure out how to answer without implicating Sabrina. Just then, a soft, intimate indie ballad began to play from the karaoke machine. Leo had picked up the microphone and was staring intently at the screen. Take you on the run, to the edge of the world we know. His voice was surprisingly good. Take you on the run, be the one that you love the most. Claire's body went rigid beside me. She instinctively looked toward Leo. At that exact moment, he lifted his eyes from the screen and met her gaze. My heart sank. Were they really doing this right in front of my face? Leo's our company's karaoke king. One of the drunker female employees blurted out, breaking the silence. He sings that song for Claire at every team event. The moment the words were out, she realized her mistake and slapped a hand over her mouth. Leo, however, didn't miss a beat. He spoke softly into the mic. This song is for Claire and for the return of Mr. Kane. Claire leaned against my shoulder and whispered, Leo is very thoughtful. He knows I love this song. I said nothing. The atmosphere in the room slowly thawed. People started drinking and chatting again, pretending the last 5 minutes had never happened. A few came over to toast me, spouting empty compliments. I went through the motions, but my eyes never left Claire and Leo. They didn't look at each other again, didn't exchange another word. But there was an unspoken connection, an invisible thread between them. Leo smoothly intercepted a shot of whiskey meant for her, handing her a glass of water instead. When someone teased him about being a lightweight, Claire replied without thinking, his stomach is sensitive. Don't force him. She must have realized how intimate that sounded because she quickly added, turning to me, as his boss, it's my job to look out for my employees' health. Right? Your job, I said, nodding. I picked up a glass from the table and drained it. The cold liquor burned its way down my throat, but it couldn't extinguish the fire raging in my chest. 5 years. 4 or 5 years in a foreign country, every grueling late night, every moment of isolating struggle, the only thing that kept me going was the thought of her. I was going to conquer the world and lay it at her feet. But when I finally came home, holding the crown that made me her equal, I found my princess already had a knight to protect her. A knight who knew her stomach was sensitive and that she couldn't drink too much. A knight who sang her favorite songs, his eyes full of a story I wasn't a part of. Excuse me, I need the restroom, I said, unable to take it anymore as I stood up. Claire grabbed my hand. Ethan, I'll go with you. No need. I gently pulled my hand away and walked out of the lounge, her worried gaze following me. I splashed some cold water on my face in the restroom, planning to find a place to smoke and clear my head. As I walked toward the fire escape, I heard hushed voices from behind the partially open door. It was a young man's voice, tight with emotion. I know I shouldn't look at you like that, but I can't help it. Every time I see him so close to you right here. The voice paused, followed by 2 soft thuds, like someone pounding their chest. It just hurts so much. It was Leo Foster. The whiny, melodramatic line was so cliché it made my skin crawl. I was about to turn and walk away when I heard Claire's voice. Leo, do you have any idea what you're saying? His voice rose with passion. I know. I've never been more clear-headed in my life. Claire, I'm the one who's been by your side these last few years. I'm the one who watched you struggle through everything. What right does Ethan Kane have to just come back and take you away from me? Because he's my fiancé. Claire's reply was sharp, definitive. But I could hear a faint tremor of uncertainty beneath the surface. Leo's voice was filled with resentment. A man who didn't give a damn about you for 5 years, who left you to handle all the pressure alone. How is he worthy of you? Claire, open your eyes. The one who truly cares about your happiness and your pain is me. It's me. Claire's voice was choked with tears. Leo, I know all of that, but I can't be that selfish. Ethan has been good to me, and the alliance between our families is critical. Love isn't about paying a debt, and it's damn sure not about obligation. Leo cut her off fiercely. Claire, if you choose him, I'll resign immediately and you'll never see me again. But if you choose me, I'll risk everything to take you away from all this. We can leave, start over somewhere new. It was an insane proposal. Naive, impulsive, reckless. But it burned with the kind of passion only the young possess. Suddenly, I remembered a time long ago. A lonely boy, the illegitimate son, crying behind a pear tree in the Ellingtons' backyard. A little girl in a perfect princess dress found him. She clumsily wiped his tears with her handkerchief and pressed her most treasured piece of candy into his hand. Don't cry, Ethan. I'll protect you from now on. They say you're illegitimate, that you have to stay in the shadows, but I think you're the best. Pinky swear, cross my heart. You have to marry me when we grow up. The moonlight was so bright that night, and her eyes outshone the stars. The promise was just as childishly simple, but to me, it carried the weight of the world. You don't have to answer me now. Leo's voice pulled me back to the present. We exchanged rings. We linked arms for the toast. All that's left is the wedding night to make us a real couple. Tonight, I'll be waiting for you. So that was it. They hadn't crossed that final, physical line. That's why Claire could act so composed. But it was an emotional affair, not still cheating. I didn't listen anymore. I turned and walked away. My footsteps were silent on the carpeted hallway, just like my heart, which had gone still and cold. So this is what it felt like at the summit. The wind was stronger up here, colder, cold enough to freeze the blood in your veins. By the time I returned to the lounge, Claire and Leo were back as well. The party was winding down, and people were starting to head home. Claire came over to me. Ethan, you must be exhausted after your flight. You should go home and rest. I brought these guys out, so it's my responsibility to make sure they all get home safe. I looked at her, nodded once, and didn't say another word. Outside the club, I found a freelance driver waiting for a fare and got into the passenger seat of my own car. The driver started the engine, ready to pull away. Wait, I told him. Don't go just yet. Come on, man. I'm trying to catch other rides here. Time is money, he grumbled. I took out my phone, opened Venmo, and scanned the QR code hanging from a lanyard around his neck. I sent him $500. A notification pinged on his phone. He glanced at it, and his attitude did a complete 180. My man. No, my boss. For tonight, I'm your personal chauffeur. Where to? How long we waiting? You just say the word. Just wait, I said, my gaze fixed out the window. The driver wisely shut his mouth and followed my line of sight. Claire was at the curb, arranging Ubers for her employees, watching as they got into their cars and drove off. Leo stood half a step behind her the entire time. After the last employee was gone, she and Leo looked at each other, then got into her white BMW together. My fist clenched involuntarily. That white BMW. Follow it, but don't get too close. You got it, boss. The driver snapped into character, his eyes suddenly sharp. The car pulled out, and we followed at a discreet distance. The city lights streamed past, painting strange patterns on my impassive face. After a few minutes of silence, the driver couldn't hold it in any longer. Boss, are we? Tailing a cheating spouse. I remained silent, my eyes locked on the taillights ahead. The driver rubbed his nose sheepishly and didn't ask again. The car didn't head toward the Ellington estate, nor did it pull into any hotel. It stopped in front of a generic-looking apartment building, the corporate housing the company provided for its junior employees like Leo. They both got out. Leo said something, and Claire shook her head, turning as if to leave. Just then, Leo suddenly shouted after her, his voice echoing in the quiet street. Claire, look me in the eye and tell me you feel nothing for me. All those late nights we worked together, all those moments where I was the only one who understood you. Was all that fake? The driver slammed his fist on the steering wheel. Dude, what a snake. Boss, you need me to go over there and knock some sense into him? Just say the word. I got you back. I raised a hand, stopping him. He looked at me, his expression a mix of frustration and pity. Boss, you have the patience of a saint. He was right. Years in the corporate battlefield had made me decisive and hard as steel. Once emotion was stripped away, all that remained was cold, calculated logic. The news of the Kane-Ellington merger, sealed by our marriage, was already public. If the engagement fell through now, it would send both our company's stocks into a nosedive. Besides, we had over 20 years of history between us, countless shared memories. This was my final offer, to her, and to the boy I used to be. One last chance. Claire's back was rigid. I couldn't see her expression, only that her shoulders were trembling slightly. Then, she turned around. She didn't leave. She didn't speak. But that turn, that hesitation, was all the answer I needed. Leo took a step forward and grabbed her wrist. She didn't pull away. I watched Leo's face light up with unrestrained joy, my fingernails digging so deep into my palms they nearly drew blood. The driver was practically hyperventilating with rage beside me, but stayed quiet. Leo led her into the apartment building. The motion-activated light in the lobby flickered on, then off again, swallowing their figures in the darkness. Boss, are we still waiting? The driver asked cautiously. I uttered a single word. Wait. The air in the car grew thick and heavy. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The driver went from righteous indignation to drowsiness, eventually slumping against the driver's seat, snoring softly. I remained wide awake, staring at that dark apartment window until the sky began to bleed with the first light of dawn. Just as the morning sun hit my eyes, the door to the building finally opened again. Claire emerged, her head down. She walked quickly to her car, started it, and drove away without a single glance around. Her clothes were rumpled, and the silk stockings she'd been wearing last night were gone. Her bare legs and high heels made her strides seem rushed, almost frantic. A walk of shame. I was sitting right there, just a few car lengths away, a silent witness to her hurried retreat. I shook the driver awake. Let's go, I said, my voice ice cold. Take me to my penthouse. He woke up at the start, saw Claire's car speeding away, then looked at my frozen expression. He understood everything instantly. Without a word, he started the car. I pulled out my phone, found her number, and typed a single message. The engagement is off. No questions, no accusations, not a single extra word. I hit send. The moment I walked into my apartment, my phone started buzzing nonstop. It was a flood of messages from mutual friends. Ethan, what's going on with you and Claire? Did you guys have a fight? You need to see her Instagram. Are those pictures real? Who is that guy? Confused, I closed the messaging app. That's when I saw it. Buried under a sea of red notification dots next to the Instagram icon was Claire's profile picture. I tapped it open. She had posted this morning. A 9-photo grid. The first picture was her and Leo Foster, side by side on a snow-capped mountain peak, a backdrop of pristine white and brilliant blue sky behind them. The second photo showed them in a cobblestone alley in some historic town, sharing a single, elegant umbrella. The rain blurred the background, but sharpened the focus on their faces as they smiled at each other. The third was them by a bonfire, Leo offering Claire a piece of grilled fish, her eyes crinkling in a happy crescent. In another, they stood with their backs to the camera, facing a vast, star-filled sky, Leo's hand resting naturally on the small of her back. The caption, 50,000 miles, and it's always been you. I recognized every one of those places. We had planned to take our engagement photos in Aspen. We promised each other we'd go stargazing in Joshua Tree. I told her I would take her to the rain-slicked streets of Charleston to feel like we were living in a poem. It turned out she'd already gone to all the places I had promised to take her, but with someone else. Every photo was shot beautifully, oozing intimacy. Anyone would assume they were a couple deep in the throes of a passionate love affair. My hand clenched around my phone, knuckles turning white. For 5 years, I had busted my ass overseas. Every time I was about to break, I would pull out the bucket list we'd made together, dreaming of the day I could make it all happen for her. Now, every one of those dreams was a knife twisting in my gut. Just then my phone rang. It was Claire. I answered out of habit, but the voice on the other end was Leo's, thick with a smugness he couldn't hide. Mr. Kane, hope I'm not disturbing you. I said nothing, waiting for him to continue his little performance. Claire was up very late last night. She must have been exhausted because she left in a bit of a hurry this morning and forgot her phone here. A lot of people have been trying to reach her, and I was worried it might be urgent, so I took the liberty of calling you. I was hoping you might know how to get in touch with her. Every word was a carefully crafted insinuation about what had happened last night. It was clear now that he was the one who had posted to her Instagram. He was trying to burn everything to the ground, to force her hand and secure his position. A fatal blow to our relationship. He didn't understand. This wasn't how the game was played among dynasties like ours. Sabotaging a merger of this magnitude would have consequences measured in the hundreds of millions. I wouldn't have to lift a finger. The Ellingtons themselves would destroy him. I almost laughed. The scheme was so clumsy. How could someone as smart as Claire not see through it? Or was she a willing participant, blinded by her own choices? Are you finished? My voice was perfectly calm. Leo seemed taken aback by my lack of reaction. His prepared speech faltered. Do you have any idea how many people worth billions would kill for a minute of my time? If it weren't for our engagement, Claire Ellington wouldn't even be worthy of having my number in her contacts. So who the hell are you to waste my time with this garbage? I hung up. Claire was an Ellington heiress, true, but she wasn't the only one. And in terms of sheer capability, Sabrina Vance was superior. Both of them were currently just cutting their teeth in subsidiary companies under the family umbrella. So, setting aside their family name, their current standing in the business world was nothing compared to mine. With that thought, I dialed Sabrina's number. Let's meet. Traffic was a nightmare. By the time I reached the cafe, Sabrina was already there, seated by a floor-to-ceiling window. The afternoon sun filtered through the glass, casting a golden halo around her. Even though we'd grown up together, seeing her after so long gave me a moment's pause. I shook it off, ordered a latte, and sat down across from her. I got straight to the point. Want to get married? She took a sip of her coffee, a playful smirk on her lips. Oh, and what makes you think I want to marry you? I shook my head. We're both busy people. Let's not waste each other's time. The Ellingtons haven't named an heir yet. You're more competent than Claire, but as long as she's engaged to me, she has the upper hand, which is why you sent me that video of her and the assistant. And if I had chosen to ignore it, that video would have been leaked online today, wouldn't it? Sabrina just smiled, neither confirming nor denying. I pressed on, but that creates a new problem. Our company's stocks have soared on the news of our alliance. If the engagement is called off now, both our share prices will plummet. Neither of us wants that. Fortunately, the family's only announced an alliance, not which daughter I was marrying. That leaves me with only one option, a different bride. This way, I concluded, you secure your position as the next head of the Ellington Empire, and you snatch your stepsister's fiancé right out from under her. Two birds, one stone. Seeing her completely unfazed expression, I knew I was right. She was the puppet master behind all of this. But I didn't hate her for it. In a way, I was grateful to her for exposing Claire's lies. I sighed. The only thing I don't get is why. We've been enemies since we were kids, and you're not the type of woman to sacrifice yourself for an inheritance. Sabrina's smile was sly, like a fox's. Better the devil you know, right? There's an old saying, no one knows you better than your enemy. Your little deduction just proved it. And that's why no one in this world is a better match for you than me, and no one is a better match for me than you. I thought about it. It made a strange kind of sense, but something still fell off. You got one thing wrong, though, Sabrina said, her smile fading. She looked at me directly. I didn't do this to steal someone's fiancé or to become the head of the family. I did it to take back what was always supposed to be mine. Ethan, I'm in love with you, and I have been for much longer than Claire. Sabrina's words were like a stone dropped into a still lake, sending ripples through me. I stared at her, searching her eyes, now disarmingly candid, for any hint of a joke or a scheme. All I saw was sincerity and a deep-seated conviction that had finally broken through the surface. Since when, for the first time in years, I felt completely at a loss with Sabrina Vance. Remember in kindergarten? When you fell into that mud pit behind the school, trying to get back a toy someone stole from you? She asked, a nostalgic smile playing on her lips as she gazed out the window. I was standing right there, watching you. You were covered in mud, but you were clutching that toy for dear life, your eyes wide and furious, like a little cornered panther. I thought to myself, this boy is interesting. Way better than all the other little kids who just cried or ran to the teacher. She turned her gaze back to me. Later, I found out you were the illegitimate son, that things weren't easy for you with the Canes. But you didn't become bitter or timid like I expected. You were like a weed growing through a crack in the pavement, tougher, more stubborn. I think that's when I started paying attention to you. I thought back to the years of torment she'd put me through, but all you ever did was antagonize me. What else was I supposed to do? Sabrina's lips twisted in a self-deprecating smile. After my mother died, my father moved Claire and her mother in almost immediately. Back then, Claire was like a little ray of sunshine. Everyone adored her, including you, and I was just the extra, the shadow in the corner. Awkward and out of place. Other than making you angry, I couldn't think of any other way to get you to even notice me. I fought the urge to roll my eyes. So you returned my lost homework and tattled on me for skipping class. That was your idea of showing affection. You were already slacking on your homework and skipping class as a kid. What kind of man would you have grown up to be? I didn't want a husband who'd end up as some burnout rebel without a cause. I had to shape you myself, didn't I? One by one, Sabrina recounted the incidents I had always seen as malicious pranks, revealing the entirely different truth behind them. All this time, in a past I never knew, her eyes had been on me. Claire has always been sweet to everyone. But you, Ethan, you're a man of black and white loyalties. In my eyes, the two of you were like passengers on the same bus, heading to different destinations. It was only a matter of time before you went your separate ways. The only person who could walk with you to the finish line was me. So, I worked my ass off to become better, to become worthy of the man who would one day fight his way out of the Kane family snake pit and claim his throne. Because fundamentally, Ethan, we are the same. If you could fight for a position you never dare to want, all for Claire, why is it so hard to believe that I could scheme and plan in the shadows for years, all for you? I was silent. I had to admit, her confession had shaken me. This feeling, buried for years, unwavering through time, fueling her own relentless self-improvement, was heavy and intense. Her strategy, her patience, her all-or-nothing gamble. It was like looking in a mirror. I had conquered my world for Claire. She had plotted to conquer hers for me. We really were the same kind of people. The shock slowly subsided, replaced by a strange sense of admiration and even a spark of kinship. But I had just ended a relationship that spanned 2 decades. The wounds were still raw. I couldn't just jump into another one, no matter how perfect it seemed on paper. I took a deep breath. Sabrina, thank you for telling me all of this. But right now, all I need is a business partner. As for anything else, we'll have to leave that to time. Sabrina seemed to have expected this. There was no disappointment in her eyes, only a genuine, relaxed smile, as if a massive weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I understand. Until the day you fall in love with me for real, Mr. Kane. It's a pleasure doing business with you. She extended her hand. The pleasure is all mine, Ms. Vance. I took her hand. It was cool to the touch, but her grip was firm. With our agreement settled, the tension in the air eased, replaced by a strange new energy. Let's go. I'll drive you home, I said, standing up, feeling a bit awkward. Sabrina picked up her purse, raising an eyebrow. I drove. Your driver can pick up your car tomorrow, I said smoothly. Or I can drive it over when I pick you up. Our strategic partnership just began. You have to let me show some gentlemanly courtesy. TSK. So this is the famous Kane chivalry? Forcing your new partner to abandon her car. It's maximizing efficiency, avoiding a waste of resources. You're just making excuses. My car has better gas mileage, but mine is safer and more comfortable, which will help my partner maintain peak condition to create greater value for our joint venture. We bickered like we used to as kids as we walked to the parking garage. Sabrina headed straight for a sleek Porsche, every inch her style. I walked toward my own car, more understated but no less powerful. Just as she reached for her door handle, I closed the distance in 2 quick strides and, to her surprise, swept her up into my arms. Ethan, what are you doing? She gasped, her arms instinctively flying around my neck. Avoiding a pointless argument, I said, my face impassive. I carried her to my car, opened the passenger door, gently deposited her inside, and clicked her seatbelt into place. The entire motion was fluid and practiced. Sabrina sat there, stunned for a second. A faint blush crept up her neck, but she was still defiant. This is tyranny. You're a despot. I shut her door, walked around to the driver's side, and started the engine. I turned to look at her. With you, it seems this has always been the only way. I'm used to it. She glared at me, but didn't argue further. She turned to look out the window, but I thought I saw the corner of her mouth twitch into the smallest of smiles. After dropping Sabrina at the Ellington estate, I had a long talk with my future father-in-law in his study. We finalized the engagement details and, to avoid any further drama, agreed to keep everything under wraps for now. That included keeping Claire in the dark. It was 8 p.m. by the time I got home. I declined Mr. Vance's dinner invitation, not wanting to run into Claire. I should have known it wouldn't be that easy. There she was, a familiar silhouette under the lone streetlight in front of my building. She was leaning against her white BMW, arms crossed, looking like she'd been waiting for a long time. The evening wind tangled her hair and did nothing to ease the deep exhaustion and anxiety etched on her face. The moment she saw me, she pushed off the car and hurried over, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan, why weren't you answering my calls? You didn't reply to my texts. I've been looking for you all day. I remembered I'd put my phone on silent during my meeting. I pulled it out. The screen lit up with over a dozen missed calls from her and a string of frantic messages. Ethan, please pick up. I'm so worried. Where are you? It's not what you think. Please, let me explain. Pick up the phone, Ethan. I'm at your place. I'll wait for you. I glanced over the messages without expression, then turned the screen off and slid the phone back into my pocket. My phone was on silent. I didn't see, I said, my voice as neutral as if I were discussing the weather. It's late. You should go home. I walked past her and started to punch in the code for my door. Ethan, she grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were ice cold and trembling. Don't be like this. Please, just listen to me. 5 minutes. No, 3 minutes, that's all I need. I stopped, but didn't turn around, letting her hold onto my arm. I was as silent and unmoving as a wall of ice. Tears welled in her eyes, and she started rambling. I'm sorry, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I didn't post it on Instagram. It was Leo. He was messing around with my phone. It was a stupid prank. I've already deleted it. Please don't be mad, okay? A humorless smile touched my lips. You don't have to explain. I know you didn't post it. He called me this morning looking for you. Said you were so tired last night, you left your phone at his place. The color drained from Claire's face. I was at Leo's apartment last night, she explained desperately, but I swear, nothing happened. I slept in the bedroom. He was on the sofa in the living room. I promise. You have to believe me. So she knew. She knew that spending the night alone with another man would destroy me. And she did it anyway. My gaze settled on her frantic face. And how do you prove that? Claire froze, her mouth opening and closing without a sound. How could she prove it? A night had passed. The only truth was what existed between the two of them. Her so-called innocence was fragile, indefensible. Her grip on my arm loosened, her hand sliding away. Her eyes filled with a vast, bottomless panic and regret. I can't prove it, but I love you, Ethan. I really do, she whispered, tears streaming silently down her face. Seeing her drop the excuses, the coldness in my heart deepened. Let it go, Claire. Stop pretending you love me. You may not have posted the photos, but they were real. Those places, they were the future we were supposed to have together. Claire shook her head, breaking down completely. No, that's not it. At first, I just thought of him as a little brother, so clumsy and always needing help. And then, maybe we got a little too close, but I swear, our relationship was completely platonic. We never even kissed. Stop. I cut her off. Claire, we're adults. Do you even believe the words you're saying? Don't lie to yourself. Even if I believed you were physically faithful, what about your heart? Can you swear, right here and now, that your heart never once wavered? My tone was calm, laced with a derision that stripped her bare. Claire was silent for a long moment before she mumbled, Life is long. We were apart for so long. I admit sometimes I was lonely and maybe my thoughts drifted, but my heart has always been with you. Huh. A short, sharp laugh escaped me. You think I wasn't lonely during those 5 years overseas? You think I didn't face temptation? That I wasn't alone? But my love, my commitment, has no room for compromise. The standard I hold my partner to is the same standard I hold myself to. There is no gray area. My voice was quiet, but each word was like a hailstone hammering down on her. And right now, I feel like you've tainted what we had, so I'm done with it. My words shattered her. She stumbled back a step, leaning against the cold metal of her car, all the color gone from her face. She couldn't form another word of defense. There was nothing left but the silent, violent rush of tears. Before, I couldn't stand to see her upset. The slightest hint of tears from her would break my heart. But now I felt nothing. This was it then. This was what it felt like to fall out of love. Without a second thought, I turned and went inside. Behind me, I heard her desperate, choked sobs, but I didn't look back. The heavy, carved wooden door swung shut with a deep, final thud, sealing her heart-wrenching cries outside. It was as if a period, abrupt and absolute, had been placed at the end of 20-year story. Inside and out, we were now in two different worlds. 2 months later, Sabrina and I were married in the most prestigious cathedral in New York City. The wedding brought together nearly every major figure from the city's elite. The church was filled with flowers, the air with music. It was a perfect fairy tale. I stood at the altar, watching Sabrina, dressed in a stunning white gown. She showed none of the typical bridal shyness. Instead, her eyes held a look of calm resolve, a silent promise that we would face the future as equals. The ceremony reached the exchanging of the rings. The priest looked at me solemnly. Ethan Kane, do you take Sabrina Vance to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part. I took a deep breath, my gaze softening as I looked at Sabrina, ready to speak. I object. A sharp, sorrowful female voice sliced through the cathedral's sacred silence. A collective gasp went through the guests as everyone turned to look. There, in the grand entrance, stood Claire. She was also wearing a wedding gown, her face streaked with tears, but her head was held high as she walked, step by determined step, toward the altar. She stopped in front of me, her voice trembling but clear. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. I was confused, I was stupid, but I can't lose you. Please, give me one more chance. I promise I'll never make a mistake like that again." With that, Claire pulled out the ring I had given her. With a small twist, it separated into its two halves. "See? I still have the ring you gave me. You promised you would come back and marry me. How could you? How could you marry someone else?" Her eyes were pleading, desperate. I knew what she was doing. She was betting on our 20 years of history, on my supposed soft spot for her, on the belief that I wouldn't humiliate her in front of all these people. But my heart was a calm sea. Over the past 2 months, my bond with Sabrina had deepened every day. I didn't know if it was love yet, but deep down, I was genuinely looking forward to this unknown future with her. I glanced at Sabrina beside me. She stood tall, a faint, mocking smile on her lips as she watched the drama unfold. Only I, standing so close, could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes beneath the veil. I picked up the microphone from the altar and spoke to Claire, my voice even. "Claire, I'm grateful for the time you were in my life. But the past is the past. I hope you find happiness in the future, and I hope you can wish the same for us." Then I turned away from her, facing the priest and my future wife. In a voice that was perfectly steady and clear, I repeated the vow that had been interrupted. "Yes, Father, I do. I take Sabrina to be my wife." The words had barely left my mouth when another, more frantic voice erupted from the back of the church. "Claire, how long are you going to keep doing this? The man doesn't want you. Why can't you just turn around and look at me?" Leo Foster came rushing in. He tried to grab Claire's arm, but she instinctively shook him off. "Look at me, Claire. I'm the one who loves you more than anyone in the world." Desperate to prove his point, Leo started shouting in front of the city's entire upper crust. That night you were drunk in my apartment. You belong to me now. Why are you still chasing after a man who doesn't love you?" The moment he said it, the entire cathedral fell into a stunned silence. Even Claire, who had been holding on by a thread, froze completely. She turned to look at Leo, her face draining of all color, as if she were seeing him for the first time. Perhaps fragments of that blurry night were flooding back to her, because she began to tremble violently. What are you saying? What did you do to me?" Her voice was broken, filled with an unbearable shock and shame. Everyone in the room was now staring at Leo like he was an idiot. It was one thing to hear rumors about the sordid affairs of the rich, but those were whispers kept beneath the surface. To publicly slap the Ellington family across the face like this was not just career suicide. It was digging his own grave. It was monumentally stupid. "You bastard." My father-in-law shot to his feet, his face crimson with rage. But it wasn't his turn to act. Seated in the front row, the patriarch of the family, the formidable old Mr. Vance slowly rose. He didn't even glance at his granddaughter, who had crumpled to the floor. His eyes, cold as ice, locked onto Leo Foster. He spoke to the air, his voice low but absolute. "Where did this rabid dog come from, interrupting my family celebration? Dispose of it." The volume was low, but the authority was unquestionable. Immediately, several security guards in black suits moved in, clamping a hand over Leo's mouth and dragging him out of the cathedral like a sack of trash. Everyone there knew, with chilling certainty, that this fool would never be seen again. The spectacle, it seemed, was finally over. The church was silent again, but the air was thick with an awkward tension. No one looked at the devastated Claire anymore. In that single moment, her love and her dignity had been utterly and completely annihilated. The priest, a man who had clearly seen it all, cleared his throat and calmly resumed the ceremony. "Sabrina Vance, do you take?" "I do," Sabrina said, her voice unwavering, as if nothing had happened. We exchanged rings. The moment the cool metal slid onto my finger, I saw a genuine smile light up her eyes. Ignoring the wreckage and whispers behind us, I took Sabrina's hand in mine. As the triumphant notes of the wedding march filled the air, accompanied by the applause of our guests, we walked out of the cathedral together, side by side. Outside, the sun was brilliant.